Welcome, everyone, to the Luscious Living podcast. I am so excited to interview Brett from the Natural Zen store. Eric and I were in the farmer's market here in Calgary, and we had no plans to go. We were just out for a drive, and I wanted to stop by, and we came across Brett's stall. And all of a sudden, we were just drawn in by his wisdom and his products, and really the products speak for themselves. And so I knew I had to have Brett on, especially when it comes to emotions and aromatherapy and really natural living. And so this is the perfect person to do so. Him and his wife, Carmel, have created these products on a desire for their own well-being and now share this information with us. So, Brett, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. It's great to have you. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Celine. It's great to be here. I'm always excited to be able to share a little bit of my passion with people that actually want to hear about it.
I love it. Amazing. Well, I really want to know, because we had touched on briefly that this was not your career. You just, you came from your own desire to do this. I'd love to find out what made you want to have this product out there.
Most of it came from the fact that I ended up coming down with COPD when I was fairly young. I was actually about 40, and I got to the point where I was nebulizing a couple of times a day, and of course the medical community told me that I'd never get better. It just goes downhill from there and whatnot. But I was fortunate enough to believe that natural health can actually combat a lot of these long-term issues. And my lovely wife, Carmel, was actually really educated in it. She actually at one point had her own raw food restaurant down in Montana.
Oh, wow.
She was well educated in the idea of, natural foods, natural things can truly change your health. So we started trying to change my health and get better. And as we went on that process, of course, our lives really started coalescing around all of the things in our own lives that actually made my breathing worse. And artificial fragrances is, of course, just horrendously bad for me. I mean, I start walking down a laundry aisle and I can actually feel my lungs starting to shut down. Yeah. So we looked around and we were thinking, geez, it would be really good to start something that is about actually helping people lead a more healthy, natural life. Provide them with something, because every time you turn around, you see these companies starting up and they're going, oh, we're non-toxic, except for this, because you got to make a buck. And we're eco-friendly, except for this, because you got to make a buck. We wanted to do something that was actually non-toxic and actually non-detrimental. And I believed, and I've been lucky because I've started a number of companies before, and I've had some fairly good luck. So I figured we were actually able to truly make a profit without compromise. Still maintain that ideology that non-toxic actually means non-toxic. So when we started down that path, it was mind-boggling, because every time you turn around, these things that you take for granted or that people are telling you are non-toxic, there's still toxins in them, and it's legally non-toxic.
Right.
It just doesn't actually make it non-toxic. So they're still bad for you. And when my health started turning around, by trying to get rid of some of this stuff, one of the things that became really, really clear to me is if you can actually make your home this non-toxic sanctuary, the body can actually begin to heal. And it's amazing what the body can do if you give it that half a chance. But it actually has to be non-toxic. not just less toxic, because when it's less toxic, the body's still fighting toxins. Less hard, without a doubt, but it's still fighting the toxins. You actually have to make it non-toxic so the body can actually change modes and go into healing mode. And when we started cleaning up our lives, I actually started getting better. My health, my lungs, regardless of what the medical community said, my lungs have gotten better. I can actually exercise. I can do things that I couldn't 10 years ago.
Wow.
And it's just from changing our lifestyle.
Wow, I love that. And there's so many things I want to unpack inside of that. So you mentioned non-toxic living. What are some of the things that people might not be aware of when it comes to some of their household products or their candles, for example?
The amount of toxins that are in a home are mind-boggling. We're doing everything that we can to try and get to the point where we can give people actually non-toxic alternatives to a lot of them. I mean, we started with candles because everybody loves candles, but they're
Mm-hmm.
also some of the most toxic things
Yep.
that homes have. It's mind-boggling how bad regular like paraffin candles are. They're literally deadly toxic, and a lot of people think, oh, it's just not good for you. One, no, there's actually deaths linked to burning these candles. They're just hideously toxic. So that was obviously the first place to start because nobody really makes a non-toxic candle. And I can't blame a lot of the candle companies because they don't actually know. Okay, they buy their wax from a wax company, and legally, you're allowed to include up to like 10% paraffin or other chemicals and whatnot, and still call it pure like soy wax.
Hmm.
In reality, though, there's still toxins in there. And then you get other things like putting in fragrance. They'll use essential oils, which sounds non-toxic and one, but there's literally only a few essential oils that have a high enough flash point to be used in candles and still gives scent. So if they're using essential oils and there is giving scent, chances are it's got some toxin in there to boost the flash point so they can actually use the essential oils.
Right.
And that, of course, then is adding in more toxins. So it was like every time I turn around, it's just more ways that they're doing this toxically. And then there's other stuff like household cleaners. Like we
Yes.
ended up doing laundry soap, and I got a kick out of it because one of my customers came down and I was telling him about our laundry soap, and because we had to do things in a different way, because regular laundry soap relies on chemicals to reach in, grab the dirt, and pull it out.
Mm.
And there's nothing like that in nature. You can't duplicate that. So my beautiful wife got this idea of actually softening the water to the point where it actually relaxes the fibers on the
Hmm.
clothing and releases the dirt on its own.
Wow.
Works like a hot damn, and it's way better on your clothes. But I was telling this to this customer, hey, and his eyes lit up on me, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm really excited about this stuff, but why is it so significant to you? Turns out he was actually taking his master's in environmental sciences, and he was writing a paper at the time, his thesis, on those islands of plastic out in the ocean. Now, everybody knows, bottles and whatnot create these islands of plastic and whatnot out there. But it turns out that 60% of those islands out there, underneath everything, it's actually fibers from clothing. Because when the chemicals reach in and pull the dirt out, they pull out some of the fibers with it. And that most of the fibers in our clothing now are plastic or some form of plastic
Right.
that ends up out there in the ocean.
Wow.
Ours doesn't actually do that. Um,
Mm.
you know, every time we turn around, there's more ways that we've learned to live in a detrimental way.
Yep.
Um, and we're trying really hard to get the idea back to nature has all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to spend a little bit more time trying to find those answers, but they are there. I mean, if you think about it, before our modern day society, people were washing clothes. People were cleaning themselves. They were cleaning their kitchens. You survived
Yes.
quite well before the invention of chemicals and toxins. Uh, we've just forgotten how to. And that's a lot of what we're trying to do. Give people the ability to do that, because most people can't spend the time to do each of these things themselves. I mean, it took me 2.5 years to figure out a way to make an actually non-toxic candle. Not something that was just less toxic or something that I could call non-toxic, but actually was. Most people can't spend that kind of time. So it's up to companies
Yeah.
to actually start giving people those products. And I think they will buy.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you had educated us so well and you were passionate about the subject, and we're drawn to living as clean in that way as possible, as natural in that way. You look at my house and all the products I own are all natural, and but then like you said, it's maybe some of them are less toxic. So what makes your candles and products, you have a whole product line and continuing to develop, is what makes that non-toxic versus what is something that is toxic or less toxic even?
One of the things that I really work hard on doing is to try and get our stuff so it's like indisputably non-toxic.
Mm.
Not just, oh, take my word for it. The stuff that we try to utilize as much as possible, our candles are a great example of that. The main ingredient that we use comes from a shrub that grows wild in Texas, New Mexico area. It's called candelilla. Now, candelilla is a real interesting shrub. It's got a really cool history to it and whatnot as well. But number one, it's all wildcrafted. You cannot get candelilla wax from cultivated candelilla. It's
Hmm.
not possible. They've actually tried it. It doesn't do it. Okay. If you've got candelilla wax, it's coming from wildcrafted sources.
Well,
Okay.
right.
Now, if people don't have to trust me then that hey, it's there's no pesticides, or hey, it's not GMO.
Right.
It cannot be. And that's one of the easiest ways to try and help people know that it's actually non-toxic.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I love is, like, we use organic coconut oil. Now, coconut oil isn't really a debatable or detrimental or bad no matter what, but we use the organic anyway,
Mm-hmm.
because that you even if somebody found a way to make toxic coconut oil, which I still don't know, but if they did, okay, it certainly wouldn't be organic coconut oil.
Mm-hmm.
So by taking that extra step, we're guaranteeing that our stuff cannot be toxic. It's not a matter of having to take our word for it. You can't find toxic organic coconut oil. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a possibility. Uh, this is one of the easiest and hardest ways for a company to actually guarantee that their stuff is clean, or at least that they're trying really hard to make it as non-toxic as possible, just by trying to use stuff that's not controversial. I mean, a good example of that is soy wax.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of companies out there saying, eco-friendly, non-toxic soy wax. Now, that number one, soy is the most GMO product in the world, right off the bat. I mean, if you're doing anything in the industry and you manage to find this mythical form of soy wax that is non-GMO, and that's debatable. I mean,
Yes.
there's people that say it's not possible to find non-GMOs soy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in a debatable thing, and whoever's going to believe that they found the non-GMO stuff, then you're believing the company is okay, and it's that whole trust me thing.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, okay, soy wax doesn't actually burn worth crap. And I know most people don't know this, but it's really not a very good wax for candles. So generally they do actually add in stuff to make it burn better.
Right.
So if your soy wax candle is burning well,
yeah, what else is in it?
that's pretty much telling you right there.
Yeah.
And then the whole idea of non-toxic, that's a whole nother debatable thing, because soy wax starts out as an oil, and then it gets machined and processed and made into a wax, which isn't its natural state. Okay, and by the time it's made into this wax, there's a toxin that it releases when burned called acrolein, which is highly toxic.
Yep.
And that's in all soy wax. And that process of making it into that soy wax is a lot of the reason why it's there.
What about what are your thoughts on beeswax? Is that sustainable? Is that ethical? Is it?
There's a lot of good things. I love bees. I love wax. I love honey. I actually make mead at home.
Nice.
The reason we don't use beeswax is because when I started looking into it, because that was actually going to be our fallback plan, but when we started looking into it, the only way to make sure that you're getting good beeswax is to get it from a local apiary.
Yes.
That's your only hope. Commercial beekeeping practices are, oh my God, mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is.
If bees were mammals, people would go to jail for the things. It's just horrendous. But if you get it from a local apiary, then possibly the bees are getting treated right. Possibly the bees are getting it from non-pesticided crops. Possibly they're getting it from non-GMO stuff, but you don't really know.
Yeah, it's very hard to. Yeah.
And then we're back into the whole, well, my beeswax is okay, but maybe somebody else's isn't. Trust me. You know, and I don't want people to just trust us. I want people to actually know that it's good.
You know, and I think that business is moving in a direction of transparency, whether some businesses like it or not. And at the end of the day, people do their research, people talk to each other, and that's what's important. Is you're saying, like, here, this is we want the same answers as you do.
Yes.
Right. And so that translates. It really shows, especially when I met you, and the candles we had, where they were not overpowering. Like, I feel nauseous if I'm around, like you said, the detergent aisle, or even candles from companies I won't name. I don't feel good. And I work with a lot of women with hormone imbalance and weight release, and a lot of it is cleaning up the environment and cleaning up the self-care products as well, because it's legally non-toxic. But what about over time? It's using every single day, and we're inhaling it through the lungs when it comes to candles. So you brought up something fascinating, and I've used essential oils and aromatherapy on and off. You were talking about the power of emotions, and it's, you know, and how it can change our emotions. So can you share with us a little bit more about your thoughts on that?
Emotions are, a lot of people don't understand how powerful they are. You know, we pride ourselves in being logical. We pride ourselves in being thinking. We pride ourselves in all these things, and generally it's always minimizing emotion.
Yep.
But in reality, our whole experience with what we consider to be real is based on our emotions.
Yep.
It's our emotions that determine how this affects us, because everything that we come across is external. Okay, our learning, our perspective, our reception of it is internal. The thing that actually makes the difference from bringing it from external to internal is the emotion. We look at something, we see something, okay, and that's external.
Yeah.
Then what we feel about it is what gives us the experience
Yes.
about that external aspect. Now, when you understand that emotions can change everything,
Mm-hmm.
everything about your experience of the world, everything that you come across can be changed by how you feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody likes to go, talk about good and bad, right and wrong, but the stuff external to us is just events. It means nothing until we internalize it and
Yep.
feel something about it.
Yep.
That feeling is what determines what our reality is.
Yes.
Now, the cool thing about fragrance is fragrance, the sense of smell is actually the first sense that's developed in humans.
Hmm.
It's actually fully developed while we're still in the womb.
Hmm.
Okay, so our sense of smell is primary in determining our connection to the world. Okay, that's what triggers so many emotions. And the cool thing is the sense of smell actually, and they've done studies on this, EEGs and whatnot, where they see people smell and what areas of the brain it hits.
Yes.
And the sense of smell actually triggers memory and emotion instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
it's incredibly powerful that way, to the point where, if you smell something, uh, a year later, you'll be able to have a 60% recall based on that smell. Whereas you'll only have a 25% recall based on visually seeing something.
It's so true. We become brought back to like a place or a memory of somebody just from a whiff of something. And actually, it was just sharing in a corporate wellness talk the other day about the terpenes can actually, help us with with again how our emotion is, and that, and as you're saying, it's the quality of our life at the end of the day is how we're feeling. But anyway, on back to you.
No, it's very true. One of my customers, and it's kind of cool because our room and linen spray. Okay, because we've got two very different kinds of fragrances. Okay, because when we were doing the candles, one of the things we had to do is find a different way of using fragrance other than essential oils. Because in order to use the essential oils, we'd have to use a synthetic stabilizer, and I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
willing to do that. So we found another way of using fragrance, which is actually based on flavoring.
Hmm.
Okay, which is the cool thing about that is a lot of people think the sense of taste is the sense of taste and sense of smell is something else, but the sense of taste is actually incredibly limited. There's very few things that you can actually taste. The vast majority of what we think about as taste is actually fragrance. It's little fragrance molecules that go back to the base of your nasal passage and make you smell what the food is, and that's what we take as taste. I mean, there's taste is really, there's salt, there's sweet, there's bitter, there's not an awful lot,
Yeah.
but smell is amazing.
Hmm.
The people can actually smell, especially women. Their sense of smell is way more developed than men, but you can actually smell up to 10,000 different fragrances in an area the size of a postage stamp.
Hmm.
Okay, so when you think of the area at the base of your nose, as you're breathing stuff in, that's where you get those phenomenal, diverse flavors. It's actually from smell.
Hmm.
So we use flavors in our actual candles
Hmm.
to give fragrance because that's what flavors actually are. But consequently, they're not super condensed like regular essential oils are. Regular essential oils are super concentrated, usually steam distilled and whatnot, which is awesome for health, and they do all sorts of things, and they actually trigger physiological changes.
Mm-hmm.
The flavorings that we have aren't super concentrated, and they don't do that. However, they do trigger emotion, and we use them in our room and linen spray. So it's not an essential oil that we've gotten now, but what they do is mind-boggling. Okay, we've got this one room and linen spray that I've got a customer. She's got a very high stress job, and whenever she starts getting stressed out at work, she'll actually spray it on the back of her chair. Close her eyes and picture being on vacation. Okay, and it's this coconut key lime
Nice.
fragrance, and it completely changes her mood for
Mm-hmm.
like at least an hour or two, and that break in the level of stress changes her health.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
It's amazing what it does.
Yep.
We've got another one, our sweet dreams.
We have that one. We use it every
Yeah.
night now.
It's awesome. I get such a kick out of it because it's not an essential oil. It's not what most people picture as, aromatherapy and whatnot. But the difference it makes in the ability to sleep is amazing.
Yeah.
It's changed people's lives. I had this one guy came down. He was actually telling me he was having difficulty sleeping. So I ended up selling him a bottle of the Sweet Dreams, and he's like, "Oh yeah," takes it home. He came back into the stall a couple of weeks later, zooms right in and grabs 2 bottles of it. Away he goes, and I'm like, "Ooh, love it, but why so much enthusiasm?" Turns out he had actually been hooked on sleeping pills for like a couple of years. Once he started doing this, it got him right off of them,
Yeah.
because he was able to sleep with natural stuff. And
Yep, and because it has that lavender, right? And we use it
yeah,
before bed. And even yesterday, by the time we're recording this, it's, we're going in Calgary, we're going into a second lockdown. And I was like, okay, bring on the Sweet Dreams spray. And it really does. It has a very calming effect, but it's also it's sweet with the vanilla. So actually, on that note, what scents would you recommend for people, whether it's candles or whether it's the linen sprays, to have people feeling more at ease, especially in this time we're getting through winter?
it's kind of neat because fragrance is so personal, and I've seen people react to fragrances in different ways. Stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think would make this emotion or that emotion actually
Mm-hmm.
does in an individual. And a lot of it's because of what your own personal receptors pick up.
That's
Okay,
true.
what
That makes
becomes
sense.
prominent for you.
Yep.
Now, that being said, there are some generalities that do tend to come up time and time again. Like you say, lavender tends to be very, very relaxing for a lot of people. Interestingly enough, the thing that actually accentuates that is something that people think isn't relaxing,
Hmm.
and that's the rosemary. Because
Mm-hmm.
rosemary actually accentuates focus. And a lot of
Yeah.
people think, okay, focus, relax, not really the same thing. But when applied appropriately, okay, the rosemary actually accentuates focus of the task at hand. And the lavender is the task at hand. So the relaxation, the sleeping and whatnot, task at hand, rosemary enhances that. Okay, and then the vanilla actually works together to smooth the transition type of thing,
Hmm.
which is why it's so incredibly effective. And this is one of the cool things about nature. Nature is all about synergy. It's
Hmm.
not about one or. It's about how things work together.
Hmm.
So most of the stuff that we've got, it's all set up to work with different things. Okay, it's very little of it is a single fragrance. Most of it is a combination of things that allow groups of people to have similar effects. Okay, so the sweet dreams is a great example for going to sleep. Then we've got another one that we call yoga retreat,
Hmm.
which has sandalwood in it, which it really helps for helping people relax and get focused. And it's that thing that, like yoga, it centers you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without necessarily putting you to sleep.
Yep.
Uh, and then we've got a little bit of a plant called muskmellow in with that as well.
Muskmellow.
Yes, it's a wonderful plant. Okay? It gives a richness and warmth and diversity to a lot of things, but it's like it smooths out virtually any underlying harsh fragrance. Okay,
Mm.
so uh, it allows the fragrance to relax, and as the fragrance relaxes, so do the people smelling it and
Mm.
experiencing it. So sandalwood, our yoga retreat, and we've actually got a sandalwood candle, which has the same muskmellow built into it, right? And it's wonderful for just relaxing and still being focused. One of buddy of mine ended up. He started with our candles with the lemon blossom and whatnot. Really loved the fragrance, made him feel good and whatnot. Um, he ended up getting the sandalwood, and now whenever he has to do his bookkeeping, he likes a sandalwood candle
Oh,
because it calms him, relaxes him, and he hates bookkeeping. But the candle helps him relax and center and still stay focused on his bookkeeping. Works really
that's
really well. Huh?
that's so great. I had the amber musk, and it was just something that I had. That's not it's not like, yes, candles are cozy, but there's a scent to it that was it just I don't know what it was. It was hard to describe, and I think this is such a I think even aromatherapy and scent and emotions are still such an untapped space, but it's one of those experiential things where that you start to how you feel. And same with, again, coming back to lavender, I was on sleeping pills when I was 16 years old, and and it wasn't until I started finding about yoga and meditation and food, and I realized that the lavender even still helps me to slow down my breathing, and that's what helps with sleep. And so plants are such powerful allies, and you've tapped into sharing this with so many people, it's powerful. I think this is really the beginning and of the tipping point, or even getting to that tipping point of people to really say, oh, this vanilla spray that cost me $5 is actually not good for me. And then you get to get the quality stuff, and you realize you not only feel better, you're able to, and your health gets back on track, and
Yes.
then you feel like you just have a different experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so what really do you want people to know about all things scent and candles, non-toxic living? What do you really want to be able to convey to people if you had a message in a bottle?
My big thing is, I guess, even more than that, is we have to change. You know, we are literally killing ourselves. We're not just making ourselves sick. We're not just making our world unpleasant. We're literally killing ourselves and the world. And it's always based on, oh, well, we need something cheaper, or you got to make a buck, or is it worth spending you know $10 for this thing when I can get it at Walmart for two? That thought process is literally killing us. There was a study released uh, quite a while ago now, showing that millennials will be the first generation to not outlive their parents. And hopefully that's changing. But it shows how how dire it is right now. there's always a reason not to buy the good stuff. There's always an excuse to not shop local.
Yeah.
There's always a reason to take the inexpensive route. And so long as people do that, you'll get these corporations not caring
Mm-hmm.
about what the end result will be, because a corporation has the legal autonomy of being a person.
Yeah.
They're legally people. They just have no ethics, morals, emotions, empathy, or anything.
Yeah.
They're not people. And if we let them dictate what products are made, those products are not going to help us.
No.
And it's exactly what got us in this boat.
Yep.
These big corporations they don't care beyond this money right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about them getting their fiscal advantage.
Yeah.
We have to change that. And the only way to change that is for people to actually start being willing to pay a little bit more, and we work really hard at trying to make our prices as affordable as
They're
possible.
very affordable for what they are. Absolutely. Yeah.
But people have to be willing to pay more than Walmart
Yeah.
in order to change their lives. Because if we don't, we are killing ourselves. And that's not an if, that's not a maybe, that's not over exaggeration.
No.
That is reality.
I always have a saying that is voting with our dollar. That's the ultimate way to make change and make those decisions. And it really is. It's going to the farmers market to get eggs or the candles, whatever it is. It's not only is it supporting local business, but it's supporting ethical, sustainable resources. And we've done a good job of, whether it's fast fashion or fast produce, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, as you said, we keep going in that direction, and there's one outcome versus we take the crossroads and the other path, and we have a different world.
Yeah.
And this is the time that we're living in, is to make those conscious choices. And so I'm very grateful to you and your wife for creating such a powerful product. And you even have mask sprays, which is a whole other line. And I encourage people to get on your website and to go follow you on Instagram and all of that, to really experience it, because it is an experiential product. And thankfully you do have a lot of you have the knowledge to also educate people on it. So, and actually one question that I want to ask for those who are business owners, what would you say to them if they also need to, make money and to have a mission? How have you balanced both for yourself?
The biggest part, I think, is realizing that whatever your mission is, there is a way of accomplishing it. But don't tie yourself into what you're originally thinking is the way to accomplish it. Allow your path to unfold so that you can find the way to accomplish it. When we first started this journey, we actually started probably about 10 years ago. And it was doing stuff that we're not doing anymore. We may get back into it at some point. In fact, actually, we just got back into one that we started with because we just started making lip balm. I added to our lineup last weekend.
Awesome.
And it's so cool because it's a luxury, but also a necessity. Dry skin, dry lips is not fun. So it takes care of them in a nice way, but it's also kind of luxurious.
I love it.
But we started doing like lip balms, and actually the first candles I made were beeswax.
Okay.
Uh, it just, it wasn't as sustainable, and it wasn't truly the direction that we wanted to go in or needed to go in. And we
Mhm.
just allowed things to unfold
Mm.
until we found the appropriate path. The
Yeah.
trick is it's not one or,
Yeah.
like nature.
Yeah.
It's being willing to accept what the universe puts in front of you.
Mhm.
As the universe puts it there, look at it, accept it for what it is, and then see how that works with what your mission is.
It's
And you'll find that.
powerful life advice as well as business advice. I love it. It's that persistence and also being open and unattached to the outcome. But when you have the clarity of goal or vision, we end up taking turns about how we get there. Well, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I really want listeners to be able to find you easily. Where is the best way to get in contact with you and your products?
The quickest and easiest way is obviously online. So you can find us at www.naturalzen.ca. But also, we're at the Crossroads Farmers Market every Friday through Sunday. Come down, visit, talk. Most of what I do is about community. It's trying to get people the knowledge that they want, and develop that friendship with people. So it's, even if you're not going to buy, it doesn't really matter. Come down, chat, say hi, experience the product, smell them, enjoy them. Um, and then, yeah, my wife does a wonderful job with our social media. So we're on Instagram with Natural Zen Store. We're on Facebook as naturalzen.ca. And those are the two ones that she does the most of. So.
And you have an amazing download for those who opt into your email list. It's beautiful, it's informative. And so I'll link to that actually in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Well, thank you. Thank you to you and your wife for creating such a valuable product that is, like an everyday luxury item, but I wouldn't say luxury. It's not like you're jumping on a private jet. This is luxury in terms of taking care of ourselves. And so maybe, having those little touches throughout the day activate that sympathetic or parasympathetic system where we get to relax, right? And we are not in the stress of things. And so you have again, I've said this before, an amazing product, and I'll link to the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a really joy. I love what you're doing with your podcast and your whole mission. The whole luscious living idea is an awesome idea.
Thank
And I really treasure the fact that you're out there trying to help women through a lot of what can be really tough times. And the more toxic things get, the tougher those times are going to be.
you.
And trying to show women an alternate way of dealing with things so that it doesn't have to be that tough. I really applaud you for, you know, going through with this and making it work. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you for the next episode.